Our climate is changing, and it's having an extreme effect on our weather.
It is the wettest in 132 years. You got to go back to 1884.
15 inches of rain the first 2 weeks of June, and then just 4 years later, we had the worst drought that we've had in, over 25 years.
It's been a warm year, one of the record warmest years out there.
The last 40 years has been the warmest 40-year period over the last 1,500 years.
In Madison today, the high was 68 degrees. That's the warmest February day ever.
Winter is getting shorter. Winter is being squeezed.
Our climate is changing, and it's affecting you in ways you might not realize. Whether it's higher insurance rates, roads that are filled with water more than snow, or fewer trout in your favorite fishing stream.
Brook trout, which is really a favorite native species, will be totally eliminated.
I'm afraid to say that we might not know the full effects until it actually starts to happen.
Our climate is changing, and it's forcing cities and companies in Wisconsin to adapt, spending billions of dollars to deal with storms, droughts, floods, and their consequences.
We had quite a few basements that flooded out. There's no system that can handle 7 inches in 4 hours.
We just keep telling ourselves it's going to be drier next year, and we'll make up lost ground then.
Our climate is changing, and it's affecting our public discourse, from coffee shops to the nation's capital, to the point that there are now key leaders following the 3% of the world's scientists who insist climate change and its human causes are not a problem.
I remember being told that we would no longer refer to it as climate change or global warming.
It's clear that Wisconsin is pulling back from its heritage of caring about the land and the environment.
There is absolutely no serious scientific disagreement that humans are responsible for the climate change that we're seeing now. But there's huge uncertainty over what you do about it, right? This has never happened to our species.
Our climate is changing, and it's affecting our lives right now. In the next hour, we'll see how, explain why, and examine what, if anything, we can do about it.
This is Our Wisconsin, the climate change effect. I'm Greg Jeske. Well, of course, our climate is changing, right? I mean, rarely is it the same from one day to the next. First, we need to make sure we're talking about the same thing here, because climate and weather are two different things. Weather is what's happening right now, but climate is what happens over the long term. Documented changes like a higher average temperature. And second, we want to be clear from the start that this is not going to be a debate about the science of climate change. We accept the conclusion of the 97% of climate experts who say the climate is changing more rapidly because of humans. However, we are going to look at the effect climate change is having on our public discourse.
The science of climate change dates back to when humans began heavily polluting the air during the first industrial revolution.
Our understanding of climate change goes all the way back to the 1800s, where our knowledge of the impact of carbon dioxide on the radiative balance of our Earth was identified. And even in the early 1900s, there were newspaper articles. So I think I saw one from 1912 or something that said, we're burning all of this coal right now in our furnaces, and one of these days that may cause a warming of the temperature.
Those researchers were remarkable in their thinking, because the magnitude of change that they projected, given a certain increase in CO2, pretty much matched what has happened. And I think that's perspective that's often lost, is that this isn't something that we just all of a sudden found out, around 1950 or 60.
In the 1990s, we were introduced to global warming. The term described the result of the greenhouse effect, as gases like carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane formed a blanket over the Earth's atmosphere, trapping heat and causing temperatures to rise. Burning fossil fuels like oil and coal puts more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and makes that greenhouse blanket thicker, making the Earth warmer. It's the biggest human impact on climate change. In Wisconsin, we generate more methane gas, too, because of the dairy farms. And if the temperature trends continue, it's predicted that Wisconsin will resemble Missouri in the next 30 years.
If I wanted Missouri weather, I'd go live in Missouri. I don't want Missouri weather. I'd like Wisconsin to stay the way it is.
But scientists say a lot would need to happen in a short amount of time to keep Wisconsin the way it is right now. More than 200 of them, experts in all fields of science, collaborated on a first-of-its-kind report, Wisconsin's Changing Climate Impacts and Adaptation. The Wisconsin Initiative on Climate Change Impacts, or WKI, published that 2011 report, which described the changes and impacts that have already been documented, projections for the future, and plans of action to address the issues caused by climate change in our state.
It was the first report of its kind in the country. This is what the future world's going to look like, and here are some things we can do to prepare and prosper in a changing climate.
Extreme weather events like the devastating floods in Wisconsin in 2000, 2008, 10, 16, and 17 are fast becoming the signature feature of climate change. But the 2011 WKI report also found several serious threats that have been growing over the years.
Nature wants to take thousands of years to evolve, time through natural selection and evolution to change things. And we're pushing, we're stressing by changing the climate. We're asking nature to adapt at a pace that nature was never made to adapt at.
Animals like the snowshoe hare and grouse, fish like the walleye and trout, trees like birch and black spruce. They're all being watched very closely by scientists right now to see how and if they can adapt to Wisconsin's warmer, wetter climate. For humans, it's not just a matter of adapting, it's a matter of taking decisive action while there's still time.
I think when we start thinking about sort of what the impact is on future generations, our children and our grandchildren, that's really where the conversation needs to go. That what we make in terms of decisions now will impact those future generations.
I think one of the things that's ironic about it is that many people are adapting even when they say that they maybe don't believe in it or they don't think humans are causing it.
And that decisive action starts at home. Next, we dig deeper into what the climate change effect is doing to our weather, our wildlife, and our water.